I'm going to teach us the laws of indices. Now this said for any number AMN where A is not equal to 0. A here represents the base of this number, just like here, this is the base, this is the index, or you call it power. This is the base, this is the index. So indices simply means powers. Now these are the basic laws of indices here. There are 7 here. Okay, now look at the first law is called the multiplication law. You have it that when you're multiplying powers of the same base, you take one of the base, you add the powers. That is why you are seeing this to be a raised to power m plus n, because we are multiplying powers of the same base. A is here, they are the same base. You just take one of the base, you add the powers. The second law is division law. When you are dividing powers of the same base, you take one of the base, then you subtract the powers. Look at the bases A, they are the same. So we just take one of them, then we subtract their powers. Then the third one is the power law, or index of index. That is when you have a value raised to power carrying another power, or when a value carrying a power is raised to another power, the powers are going to multiply themselves. You can see that A is raised to power m, or raised to power n. So you just have it that it's going to be equal to A raised to power m times n. So that is the power law, or index of index. Now you have the zero index. When you have any value raised to the power of 0, it's going to be equal to 1. If it is a positive value, it is going to be positive 1. If it is a negative value, it's going to be negative 1. Please, and that value must not be equal to 0. That is why we began that A is not equal to 0. Now this one is called the fractional index. It has 2 cases. This is the case 1, this is the case 2. Now here, when you have a value raised to power of a fraction, the denominator of the fraction becomes the root of the value, while the numerator becomes the power. Now I didn't show the power here because the power here is 1, and any value raised to the power of 1 does not change that value. So when you have this case like this, just know it that the denominator becomes the root of that value. That's why we're having a to the power of 1 over n is equal to nth root of a. Now look at the case 2, the 6th law. In this case, the denominator and the numerator are numbers that are not 1 now. Still the same thing is applicable. The denominator of the fractional index becomes the nth root, or becomes the root value, while the numerator becomes the power. That's why you're seeing me having it as the root value, that is for the n here, becomes the root value of this, our a, while our numerator becomes the power of the result you get. Now this is called the negative index. When you have any value raised to the power of negative, the result is going to be the reciprocal. This is reciprocal, that is 1 over. It's going to be the reciprocal of the positive power. That is, you have it as 1 over that positive power. Here, the value is now going to change. That negative has gone out from the reciprocal of the positive power.